Video games are always prone to delays, but that's been truer than ever these past couple of years. The pandemic has enforced working conditions that aren't exactly ideal for game development, and as a result, it feels like we see announcements for major games getting pushed back every other week. That probably isn't going to change anytime soon. Here, we'll be talking about 15 major upcoming games that have a good chance of getting hit with delays at some point in 2022. They might be internal delays for games that don't have official announcements that we hear about from leaks, or they might be officially announced ones. They might be smaller delays or significantly longer ones. Either way, we wouldn't be surprised by any of these. God of War Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok was originally delayed once, having initially been announced with a 2021 launch window that, honestly, it was never going to hit anyway. But we wouldn't be surprised to see the game slipping back even further. Sony has shown time and time again that it isn't afraid to push back even its bigger tentpole releases if those games need additional development time, as is evidenced by holiday 2021 being left surprisingly empty with Horizon's delay. And for a game as ambitious as this one, a delay doesn't seem entirely unlikely. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild's sequel. This one is likelier than most other games on this list. The game hasn't even been given an official name yet, and we've seen surprisingly little of it so far. Nintendo says the game's targeting a 2022 launch, but at this stage, they haven't done a lot that inspires confidence in them being able to actually get the game out by then. Zelda games have always been prone to delays, and Breath of the Wild in particular got hit with several of them, so we wouldn't be surprised if we had to wait even longer for its sequel. Starfield. We were all more than a little surprised when Microsoft and Bethesda announced a very specific release date for Starfield a whole year and a half away from that intended launch. You'd think that that would be enough time to ensure that the game is done and ready in time, but for a game as massive and as ambitious as this one, it's hard to ever be too sure about something like that. Bethesda says it's confident of hitting that release date, and we sincerely hope that it does, but if we haven't seen substantial gameplay footage by the time E3 2022 rolls around, we're probably going to be less than optimistic about it. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Announced last year with a 2022 launch window, Rocksteady's long-in-development Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has had 2 showings so far, although surprisingly, none of them have shown gameplay. That's always bound to ring alarm bells, and so it does in this case as well. Of course, if the game is targeting, say, a holiday 2022 launch, that would mean there's still more than enough time for WB Games to begin showing it off in greater detail. But given how Rocksteady works, it wouldn't surprise us if they decide to take an additional time to really polish up the game before releasing it. Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is one of many major upcoming games that have already been hit with delays, with the action RPG being pushed back from 2021 into next year. But with each passing day, we're beginning to wonder just how much longer we're going to have to wait for it. Other than its reveal trailer, we've seen absolutely nothing of Hogwarts Legacy so far, and the fact that Warner Bros. Itself has been completely silent about the game doesn't bode well for it either. It might still make it in time for a Q3 or Q4 launch, but if that is indeed the case, then it needs to showcase some gameplay sooner rather than later. The Callisto Protocol. Even before EA and Motive Studio announced their Dead Space remake, fans of visceral game survival horror series had something to look forward to, with its original developers working on the new sci-fi horror IP, The Callisto Protocol. As conceptually exciting as that game is, though, we haven't actually seen a great deal of it. Its brief reveal trailer is pretty much the only thing we have to go on for now, and in the absence of any updates since then, let alone a gameplay showing, we're beginning to wonder if development is perhaps taking longer than expected. A Plague Tale Requiem. Like many other games on this list, A Plague Tale Requiem is another one of those titles that was announced for 2022 with a brief cinematic trailer. Since that happened, developer Asobo Studio and publisher Focus Entertainment have said absolutely nothing about the game. Hopefully we'll be hearing something soon about it, because if that reveal trailer remains the only thing we've seen of the game, say a few months from now, a delay will begin looking more than a little likely. Need for Speed. Development on the next Need for Speed has been more than a little jittery. Since handing the reins of the franchise back to Criterion Games, EA has announced that the next entry in the racing series will be out before April 2022, before then pushing it back again to pull Criterion in for support work on Battlefield 2042. Now that Battlefield 2042 is out, you think Criterion would be free to go back to NFS. But Battlefield is in big trouble, and we wouldn't be surprised if EA and DICE had Criterion stick around even longer to continue providing support for the shooter. If that happens, that would mean NFS would get pushed back even further. Redfall. Once again, the only reason we think there's a possibility for a delay here is that we've seen no gameplay so far. Redfall's showing at E3 2021, as impressive as it was a purely cinematic one, and with the game's targeting a summer 2022 launch, it needs to begin showing actual substantial gameplay soon. Hopefully that'll happen at the Games Awards, because if it doesn't, there's going to be more than a few questions about the state of its development. Elden Ring. Fans had to wait an interminably long time to get a set release date for Elden Ring, which finally happened at E3 time in 2021, and though the game did get hit with a month-long delay, it's still not terribly far away. But honestly, we don't think there's zero chance of there being another delay. Elden Ring just had its closed network test, and if based on feedback from that, if From Software decides that it needs perhaps another month or two to polish up the game, which may very well happen, then February might be too soon for it. February is stacked enough with major releases as it is though, so we actually wouldn't mind if a couple of games ended up slipping out of the month. Final Fantasy XVI. It's been a while since Square Enix announced Final Fantasy XVI, and just as long since we last saw something new from the game. In the absence of any updates or new trailers, questions about how the RPG's development is going and when it'll be out have been asked more than a few times. With the game skipping not only E3 2021, but also TGS 2021, those questions have only intensified further. Right now, it's widely believed that Final Fantasy XVI will be out sometime in 2022, though that hasn't actually been announced yet. And if that is indeed the case, we'll probably hopefully see another trailer of the game in the not too distant future. GHOSTWIRE Tokyo. Tango Gameworks' GHOSTWIRE Tokyo was originally due this year, but the game was delayed to early 2022. In a recent statement on Twitter, the developer said that it wanted to, quote, get the game in your hands as soon as possible, but also wanted to focus on protecting the health of everyone at Tango. While there hasn't been a ton of new gameplay footage, the developer has provided details on DualSense controller support, along with confirming ray tracing on the console. However, given that early 2022 is just a few months away, and the lack of gameplay and general information, GHOSTWIRE Tokyo might very well be getting delayed again. Forza Motorsport. The Forza franchise is flying higher than ever right now, thanks to the incredible critical and commercial success of Forza Horizon 5, but soon it'll be the flagship Motorsport series' time to shine. The Forza Motorsport reboot doesn't actually have a set release date right now, but with speculation and leaks suggesting that it'll be out sometime in 2022, you have to wonder why we haven't seen any gameplay for it yet. Of course, it's entirely possible that Microsoft didn't want to pull attention away from Horizon 5 and will soon kick marketing for the next Motorsport into gear now that the open world racer is out. Then again, back when it was first announced in June 2020, it was said to be in early development. Will 2 years be enough to complete development on what's being billed as a complete reimagination of the series? Only time will tell. Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 has been in early access for a while now, and already its 1.0 launch has taken longer than Larian intended. But will it be able to hit 2022? It's hard to say. This is clearly a huge, complex game and a massive undertaking for the studio. It's going to take some time to finish development on the game and polish it up to a point where it hits the level of quality that's expected from both the developer and the IP. It's hard to be 100% sure about it being able to do that in time. Larian CEO Sven Vincke himself has said that there's no guarantees that that will happen, even though the developer is trying to get the full game out in 2022. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake. This one has been a hot mess since the moment it was first revealed. Internal workings at Ubisoft in general are a hot mess right now, honestly, which is why we're seeing so many of the publisher's games getting delayed. But the Sands of Time remake has been delayed not once, not twice, but 3 times in the short span of a few months, and the third delay pushed the game past a date that hadn't even been officially announced. Clearly, the game's having some issues behind the scenes, so we wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if it's unable to release before April 2023, which is what Ubisoft is targeting right now. Steel Rising. A few months back, publisher Nacon announced a 2022 launch window for the game, while also showcasing a brief gameplay trailer. But as ever, brief gameplay trailers don't do much to inspire confidence where hitting release dates is concerned, especially in today's day and age. That said, we do think Steel Rising definitely has a better chance of releasing on time than most other games on the list. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below, and if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.